Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive with us. Today, we're going to be looking at what happens to society if we discover extraterrestrial life.
Oh, wow.
A big question.
It is a big question.
And we've got two things that we're going to be referencing in our deep dive today. We've got Stephen J. Dick's book, Astrobiology, Discovery, and Societal Impact, and a little clip from a podcast called Random Podcasts.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it really makes you wonder what happens to us as humans.
Yeah.
You know, when we encounter not just the other, like, different cultures on Earth, but life beyond our planet.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question and a big one, like you said, and it goes way beyond science. You know, I think it really touches on the core of who we are, you know, as humans.
Absolutely. And the book kicks off by sort of looking back at history and how humans have reacted to events that seem to point to alien life.
Right.
Like, you know, that famous Orson Welles War of the Worlds broadcast where people actually thought Martians were invading.
Yeah. I mean, that was a very specific situation in time, obviously.
Yeah.
But it shows how, you know, the lack of preparedness and the way it was communicated, I mean, it caused mass hysteria. So it's not a perfect playbook for how we'd react to you know, actual extraterrestrial life. But it does highlight, you know, how important the context is, you know, of the discovery, like you said, and how it's, you know, presented to the public.
And it seems like, you know, the type of life we discover would make a huge difference too. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like microbial life on Mars versus a signal from some, you know, advanced civilization out there. Those are two very different scenarios.
Huge difference, yeah. And finding even just microbial life, I think, would be monumental. It would answer that age-old question, are we alone in the universe?
Yeah.
And think about this, we might have to rethink our whole understanding of where life comes from in the first place.
Oh, yeah, like how did life even begin?
Yeah, how did it begin here on Earth?
Yeah.
You know, how would it impact different theories about a biogenesis?
And, you know, even I think religion, like, you know, how would different religious groups respond to, you know, the confirmation of life beyond Earth?
That's right. Yeah, it's hard to predict, but it's definitely something that we need to consider. And then, you know, if you go to the intelligent life, you know, scenario, I mean, that would challenge us even more profoundly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, where we fit in the whole scheme of things.
And that sort of brings up the question of communication then, right?
Yeah.
Like, would we even be able to understand each other?
Right.
Because the book touches on this.
Yeah. Yeah, and it highlights the idea that, you know, extraterrestrial intelligence or ETI, I think they call it.
Yeah.
ETI might perceive the universe in ways that we can't even imagine. You know, their senses, their concept of time, even logic and math could be totally different.
Yeah, it's like almost impossible for us to even comprehend.
It's like trying to explain quantum physics to a dog, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
But wouldn't the laws of physics, you know, kind of provide some common ground after all those laws govern the entire universe?
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's a good point. The laws of physics, you're right, would still apply. So, so there's hope for finding, you know, some shared principles. But even if we can communicate, can you imagine the cultural clashes?
Oh, yeah.
That could happen.
Yeah, I mean, Earth is hard enough, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's different cultures here. So.
Right.
But the book actually suggests that comparing, you know, human worldviews and alien worldviews could give us a whole new perspective on, like, philosophy and ethics.
Imagine discovering that all ETI, you know, regardless of where they come from, share certain moral principles. What would that tell us about the nature of morality itself? That's just mind-blowing.
So it almost seems like it's not even about finding the aliens, it's about, like, what happens to us when we find them.
It changes how we see ourselves and our place in the universe, and the book talks about this cosmological worldview.
Right. Yeah, and that actually kind of leads into the clip from Random Podcast. Yeah. Because even a podcast with random in the name is encouraging listeners to kind of expand their thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah, it speaks to this trend, I think, that's happening of people, you know, being open to new ideas and new perspectives.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's crucial if we're going to try to navigate, you know, all these potential, you know, complexities of an encounter.
But it makes you wonder, though, like, if we did make contact, who speaks for Earth?
Right. Is there anyone, you know, is there any international institution that could handle, you know, something like that?
Yeah, it seems like we would almost need a whole new set of protocols for interacting with the universe.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really highlights, you know, this need for preparation. And that's a major focus in the book, you know?
Right.
We might think discovering, you know, alien life is science fiction, but it could happen anytime, really.
It's almost like we need some kind of first contact protocol, not just for scientists, but for everyone.
That's right.
Governments, religious leaders, just the public. How do we handle this as a planet?
Yeah, but that's the point exactly. We need to think about, how do we verify that a signal is real, Like,
Right.
how do we manage the potential, cultural and religious, upheaval?
Yeah.
What kind of ethical frameworks do we use, for interacting with ETI?
It's a lot.
It's a lot to think about, yeah.
It feels like a massive undertaking, but where do we even begin to prepare for something this big?
Well, I think a good starting point is just, more dialogue,
Yeah.
between all these different areas. You need astrophysicists talking to sociologists, anthropologists talking to religious scholars,
Right.
policymakers talking to, ethicists. It's realizing that this is a challenge that needs, everyone.
Breaking down those silos and getting everyone to the same table.
It's exactly.
But we also need to consider the public too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Public education is vital.
Yeah.
Not just about, the science of astrobiology, but also the potential, societal and philosophical implications. We need to have these open and honest conversations about, what we value, what we hope for, and even what we're afraid of, when it comes to meeting, other intelligent life.
It's interesting you say that because pop culture could actually play a role in all this.
Oh, for sure.
Science fiction has been exploring these themes for decades.
Absolutely.
Movies like Arrival or books like The Three-Body Problem, they really grapple with these things.
Yeah.
The communication, the nature of intelligence, the ethical dilemmas of first contact.
Yeah, they're powerful tools, for getting these conversations started.
Yeah.
And getting people thinking about these issues. It's like a mental rehearsal for the real thing.
Oh, yeah.
By exploring, all these different scenarios in fiction, we can, start to understand those challenges and opportunities that might be ahead.
It's like a safe space to confront those big existential questions.
Absolutely.
And maybe engaging with these ideas, can help us build a more resilient society, one that's better equipped to handle the unknown and almost a hopeful counterpoint to all the other challenges that we're facing here on Earth, right?
I agree. Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all the negative stuff, but the search for, life beyond Earth reminds us that there's still so much wonder and mystery out there, and it pushes us to look beyond our problems and think about, our place in this grand scheme of things.
It's not just about finding the aliens. It's about recognizing how interconnected we are, with the universe and understanding, our responsibility as a species. If we want to be ready for contact, we need to be more than just scientifically advanced. We need to be, ethically mature,
Right.
socially responsible, globally united.
Precisely the discovery of extraterrestrial life. I mean, it could be a defining moment for us.
Yeah.
It could be an opportunity for us to, transcend our differences and come together, but
Or it could go the other way.
it could, yeah. What if, one nation made contact first?
Right.
I mean, that would create huge geopolitical tensions.
It's almost like we need, a United Nations of Earth,
Yeah.
specifically for handling this.
But then who gets to decide,
Who makes the rules?
what's ethical in that context? Whose values do we use,
Yeah.
to guide those interactions?
Huge questions.
Massive questions, yeah. And there are no easy answers, but that's exactly why these conversations need to start now.
Right.
We have to have, these open and honest dialogues about, what we believe in and what kind of future we want to build for ourselves and, and for any other intelligent life we meet.
Yeah, it's not even just about survival at that point.
Right.
It's about defining our place in the cosmos
Absolutely.
and understanding our purpose.
It's a profound challenge, but it's also an incredible opportunity for us to grow.
Yeah.
To learn about ourselves.
So we've talked about, the historical context, the societal impact, the need for all this preparation, the philosophical implications of finding life beyond Earth.
It's a lot to take in.
It's a lot, and I feel like we've barely scratched the surface here, but I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
Yeah, it does feel like we've only just kind of begun to think about all of this.
Absolutely.
One of the things that really struck me is we can't really predict how humanity is going to react. It's
Wow.
almost like holding up a mirror to our own nature.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Would we embrace this unknown with curiosity and wonder? Or would we let fear and, division take over?
I mean, this is something philosophers have been, debating for centuries.
Yeah.
Are we as humans inherently, cooperative, Or are we competitive?
Yeah. Are we going to come together or are we going to fall apart?
Yeah. And would finding, another intelligent species out there bring us together, or would it actually, drive us further apart?
I guess that's where all this preparation comes in, right?
Exactly.
If we start thinking about these things now,
Yeah.
maybe we can increase the chances that, we react in a way that actually benefits everybody.
Right. It's not about, getting rid of the uncertainty.
Yeah.
But it's about developing the wisdom and the foresight to navigate it. We need to build a society that's resilient and adaptable and, open to these new perspectives.
It's a tall order.
It is.
But I think it's worth striving for. And this conversation has really highlighted how interconnected everything is,
Right.
The science, the philosophy, the ethics, even pop culture. It's all a part of this bigger picture.
And it's a picture that's, constantly changing.
Yeah.
As we learn more about, the universe and where we fit in, even without discovering extraterrestrial life.
Yeah.
The very act of searching and asking these questions, I think, is changing us.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with one final thought for everybody out there.
Okay. If we were to discover alien life, whether it's microbial or intelligent, would it ultimately unite humanity or divide us even further?
It's a question that only time will tell.
Yeah.
But by having these conversations, now, by exploring these possibilities and facing these challenges, it allows us to at least prepare for whatever might come.
Yeah, we can be proactive instead of reactive. And who knows, maybe just the act of preparing for this will help us evolve.
Right.
Become more aware of how interconnected we all are and embrace a much, bigger view of ourselves and the universe that we live in.
It's a hopeful thought.
It is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We hope it's, sparked your curiosity, give you some things to think about.
Absolutely.
Keep looking up, everybody, and keep exploring.